What's up, psychos? Today we are doing a deep dive into dark romance. I'm gonna start on the lighter end and then I'm gonna go all the way down to pitch black. So just buckle up. I'll break everything down into chapters so you don't get lost and confused. You can skip directly to the books that you're actually most interested in. They're all listed below. Go check it out. I also want to spend a little bit of time in the upfront here talking about the difference between dark romance and horror erotica. Putting books in the correct genre is extremely important. Mislabeling a horror erotica novel, for example, as a dark romance is a big reason why dark romance gets a really bad rep sometimes around romanticizing horrible things that are often featured in those books. Now, it's possible to have romance in a horror erotica, but that does not make it a romance. A romance needs to have a happy ending, first of all. It doesn't need to be in the first book, but the romance that is featured in the story needs to have a happy ending when the story ends. So if it's a trilogy, by the end of the trilogy, they need to be together and have a happily ever after. It's like one of the only things that is necessary to classify a book as a romance. I'll be talking about and recommending both types of books. They're very different. Like if you're reading a horror erotica, you're not gonna get or expect to have too many of those like foot kickies. The spice is gonna make your tummy hurt more than get you like excited. It's like usually spice that you don't really want to be happening, and it's a trauma dump usually. So just be aware of that going into this. We're gonna start with dark romances, and then towards the end I've got a couple of very effed up books. Or yeah, if that's more your speed. So I think probably in the shallowest of the shallow end would be Ricochet by Hale. I get a lot of people asking me all of the time like, hey, do you have any dark romance recs that don't have non-con in them? And this is my go-to. This is a dark hockey romance where one of the characters is a serial unaliver, and there's quite a bit of like dark themes in here, but there is no non-con between the MMCs. The main MMC is still a consent king. Even the villains in here, most of what the villain does to the other MMC is more or less off page and alluded to. So you're kind of like left to your imagination. You know that he's a bad guy, and the dark things that happen are more like revenge based and schmurdery than anything to do with a lack of consent. So this really good book, probably the lightest of the dark romance in MM that I've ever read. So a step up from that is the Necessary Evil series by Onley James, and I loved this series. The books aren't on KU. Normally I prefer to read on my Kindle and then I'll buy trophies, but because the ebooks, I think they're priced relatively high. I think they're like $9 for like an ebook. I wasn't gonna spend $9 on each ebook and then also buy trophies, so I just went ahead and bought them right away, and I annotated all of them. Like I bought the ebook for the first one, finished this, and was like, no, I'm gonna want this series on my shelf, and I just from then on purchased the rest of it. So the way I like to explain this series is it's kind of like Umbrella Academy, but like make them psycho serial unaliver. Thomas Mulvaney adopted 7 psychopaths and raised them in a house, conditioning them basically to unalive people. But it's very like Dexter-y in the sense that he has a code. They have to follow the code. They're all very loyal to Thomas Mulvaney, and they all follow the code. And if one of them were to ever break the code, all of the other brothers would like turn on whoever broke the code. So it's all good. They're good bad guys. The first book, Unhinged, remains my favorite, and don't get me, I loved this series. I loved so many of them, but just Noah is my favorite character, and he's a staple throughout all of the other books. Like you get Noah in every book, and Noah and Adam are just so stinking cute. Noah has a very dark and traumatic backstory. Again, it's not ever on page. That's why I'm putting this on like the lighter side, but the implication and the implied CSA that Noah suffered through as a child, it's all very revenge based. Bad guys in this are bad guys, but they always get the revenge. My actually one issue with the series is I wish the revenge scenes were even more violent than they were. Like I wanted to see these bad guys get torn to shreds. Another thing worth mentioning is this entire series is very insta-love, which is not something I'm normally into, if that makes sense. Like I'm usually like not a big insta-love girl. I like push and pull. I like things drawn out. This I was okay with because the way the author set it up was almost like these psychos like imprint on like their human men. And like it's like one look at them, they're freaking in love and obsessed, and then the human men are like, okay, like it's so so funny. And I just like Adam and Noah, the banter, so freaking good. And again, I love them all, but there's 7 of them, so you're naturally gonna have like favorites and least favorite. My favorites after Unhinged were Madman and Headcase. Yeah, these two, so there's twins and they're mirror twins. I freaking loved both of the twin stories. One of them is a masochist and the other one is a sadist. So just to kind of give you an idea of what a mirror twin is. And then there was Moonstruck, which I wasn't expecting to like this one as much as I did, but I think it's just because I'm freaking in love with Jericho. And this is the one book where it was kind of flipped. Like the psycho that was raised by Thomas Mulvaney was, I'm like, is he a psycho? Like, I'm not even sure. And Jericho doesn't seem to think that he's a psycho, and he meets this man who's like outside of like their little family circus, and Jericho like takes such good care of him. Like I just like, these books are dark, but they're so cute. Like I love them. You should really read them. Next up is The Mercenary and the Mortician and Make Me. The Mercenary and the Mortician I wrote, and Make Me was written by my very, very good friend Alina May. So again, full transparency, I wrote this book. If you don't want to read a book recommended by the author, don't read it. It's okay. Do whatever you want. No worries. I'm just still gonna recommend it because I love them. I freaking love Cal and Ryan. Out of all of the books that I've written, I think this is still my favorite one. I just love their dynamic. It's very like psycho, happy-go-lucky, unaliving, Doberman puppy energy with like this grumpy, uptight mortician. And I'll put it like at the end of this video here, but I do a bit of a deep dive into this, and like this book explores a lot of themes of grief and trauma, and there's a lot of like healing in this as well too. While I would say this is very like middle of the pool dark. Like it's very funny, but when it's not funny, it's dark. Like there's a lot of on-page schmorcher. There's a lot of Cal's had a really rough life, and it's okay. And there's also mild non-con in the early stages between the MMCs, and like the same with Make Me. This covers very dark topics. Like Ronan, for example, is an ex-cop who hunts down P3 DOs, and he's quit his job because he hasn't seen any success, and he's in psychosis because he's so effed up for how many kids he hasn't been able to save. So just to give you an idea, like it's still very, very dark themes. Yes, they're funny, but just be wary of that if anything like children is rough for you. Like even Cal, a lot of bad stuff happened to him as a child, and he has like some repressed memories that come up later that are pretty difficult. It was difficult for me to write. I would imagine they're difficult to read as well. Again, I love both of these books. Yes, I'm biased, but I just like, they feel so real to me. You know what I mean? Like they're so close to my heart, and I don't know. I think you should read them if you haven't. Next, another solid middle of the pack. Do not let these bright, pretty covers fool you. These are pretty freaking dark, especially like if you have any triggers around homophobia, which I honestly do a little bit. Like I really struggle sometimes when, sorry, you can probably hear my cat meowing. Order sauce. He's hungry. Stop, I'm filming. I struggle sometimes when one of the MMCs is like hateful and homophobic to the other one, but we overcome it, and the rationale behind it is pretty well explained. And also the on-page trauma that Rain suffers through is horrific. Again, it's on-page CSA, so I would say this is like, we're moving into very charcoal gray to almost black with some of the scenes in here. Then in the last duet that I just talked about, the River and Rain duet by C.E. Ricci, this guy here is a spin-off from it. So there's a character in that's kind of like a foil to the main couple called Roman, and then this is his story. And even reading the River and Rain duet, like I knew reading it, we were supposed to obviously be against Roman a little bit, and we're cheering for River and Rain to be together, but I love Roman. Like I could read a whole book about him, and then would you look at that, these vile secrets exist, and it is a book on Roman. So you could read this one next. This is also pretty dark, and the ending in this book was freaking crazy. Like if you like a betrayal trope, like I think this series was actually discontinued by C.E. Ricci because it wasn't like hitting the numbers I don't think that she was hoping for, which is honestly a shame. Like C.E. Ricci's dark romance, like these are my favorite C.E. Ricci books that she's ever written. So I don't know, go read these. Go read these and make them successful. I hope she finishes it one day. These next ones, we've officially gone so deep in the dark that you need a flashlight, okay? So buckle up. These are not for everybody. These Monstrous Deeds by T.J. Hamel is the first in a completed 3 3-book series. The premise for this is crazy, but again, the darkness level is pretty extreme, so please make sure you're checking triggers. And so basically the premise is our main MMC, Nathan, who is deep undercover in the human trafficking world. He works for this underground kind of vigilante group that has connections with the CIA, so they can do a lot of stuff that's like unsanctioned. And he's been in this position for 8 years. 8 years deep undercover in this ring, trying to dismantle like an international trade. Everything was honestly going pretty good for 8 years until one of their buddies, his cover gets totally blown, and the bad guys in the trade find out that he has a little brother. They abduct Carter and put him into the trade, and so his older brother basically calls Nate, freaking out, saying, you have to buy my brother to save him because my cover's blown, I can't do anything about it. And Nate is like, I've made it 8 years without GRAPEing somebody. If I have a personal SLAVE, I didn't sign up for that, I don't want to do it. And his brother begs him to. He's basically like, you have to buy him, or like it's gonna be so much worse. Like, at least if it's you doing it, he's not gonna get us hurt. Then Nate's like, okay, fine, but I need to tell him that we're undercover. And his brother, who is above him in like rank, was like, no, we're too close to ending the case. If he blows it, we're F. So honestly, this was one of the most, I'm like shivering. This one made me think, like, I didn't know who I felt worse for. Carter, who's suffering all of the trauma, or Nate, who's being forced to traumatize him. Because you're getting both POVs, so you know how much this is effing up Nate, but he has to sell it. Like, it has to be believable or everybody's gonna freaking die. The stakes are so high. And like, I have like goosebumps talking about it. This is really good. If you can handle really dark, messed up crap, I highly recommend this. So these 3 books, this first one is while Carter is being traumatized. This one is them working on completing the mission. And then this one is the aftermath. Like, how do you move on from something like that, right? It's crazy. And I think this is probably one of the only or first dark romances where we have 3 books that are following the same couple. And it doesn't feel like it's too long. This is really good. Then she blessed us with a spin-off series. So the first one and the next one is Drown in You, and there's a character in the other books named Casey, and then this is what happened to him during all of that time between Carter and Nate. And I actually read this one first because I didn't know about the other one, and I was like, this was really good. This does have a daddy boy schmink in it, which isn't personally for me, but it actually was so well done on the author's part, in my opinion. Like, just because something isn't necessarily for me doesn't mean it doesn't make sense for the story. Do you know what I mean? It was still a really good story, and it made so much sense to put that schmink in here because Casey suffered a lot more than Carter did because he wasn't being traumatized by somebody who was undercover. It was by an actual bad guy. So he's fully depression, like can't get out of bed, can't take care of personal hygiene, can't feed himself sometimes. So like that like caretaker schmink I thought was really smart of the author to put into the relationship dynamic in here because like Casey needed that, you know? He needed a daddy. I haven't read these 2 next, but I'm not worried. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like them. It's the next 2 in the spin-off, and this covers the stories of some of the other boys who were abducted and basically what their stories are and how they heal from it. All right, now we're officially in pitch black mode, okay? The next book I'm gonna recommend is officially labeled as a horror erotica, not a romance. Though I will say, out of all of the horror eroticas I've read, there's a lot more romance in this than most of them that I've read. But go into this book understanding that it is labeled as a horror erotica. This is Danse Macabre by Julie Ann Addicott. And basically it's an underground secret society of serial unalivers who like to eat people. This is the cover you can get on this, and these are the special editions. Now, again, I went into this expecting like a full horror erotica. I did not expect to laugh as much as I did reading these books, and I did not expect as much romance as I got. Like, to just give you an idea of like the humor, like it's only you swallow, I can't. I don't know if it's just my humor, but I found myself laughing a lot reading this book, and it's because it's just a dynamic I've never seen before. So the one MMC Diablo, he's serial unaliver who likes to nom on the human. Nom nom nom. But then Killian, who's the boy that he's obsessed with, has a schmink where he's obsessed with the idea of being schmurdered. So Diablo shows up with like his like stabby being like, I'm gonna get ya. And Killian's response to that is just like, oh my god, please, 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 please kill me. Begging him to do it. And then poor Diablo is just like, what? And then, of course, because Killian's obsessed with being schmurdered, Diabo becomes obsessed with the fact that Killian wants to be schmurdered and he can't do it, much to Killian's dismay. I don't know, it's so twisted that I was like howling. Very graphic, very gory, and again, there's on-page CSA. Don't let me laughing about this fool you. This book is like, it's messed up. But again, if you are also messed up, like yours truly, and you're into that kind of thing, you're gonna freaking love it. I love this. I've recommended this book to a lot of people, and I think they were kind of like, what is actually wrong with you? But I don't know, I freaking loved it. We're also waiting on the next book coming out for this, which is gonna be called The Desecration of Justice, I think, and it follows a character in this named Salem, who is like one of my favorites ever. And hold on, I don't know if you've read, actually I can just put the cover here. I don't know if you've read Deathtrap by me. If you've read this book and you like Shem, you'll love Salem. Like, I'm so excited for Salem's book to come out. I could just see Salem and Shem like being BFFs. I can't freaking wait. Which, if you like dark romance, you should read Deathtrap. It is MF, but just to get the lore for it, because the next book for that will be Shem's book, and Shem is bi and his partner is a man, so it'll be MM, and that'll be another borderline pitch black, super dark, taboo, twisted romance. Like, I literally wrote 2 versions of it because I was worried one would get bananaed on the Zon. My editor said it should be fine, so we'll see. But yeah, if you haven't read Deathtrap yet, maybe check that out in anticipation of Hellcat, which is coming in October. They're interconnected standalone, so you could technically just read Hellcat without reading Deathtrap, but it's just, you're gonna just like appreciate it so much more. You know what I mean? I think it's worth it. If you are down for like religious trauma, I think you're gonna have a good time. It's less about the romance and more about like a comment on organized religion, if that makes sense. Now, this next book is the end of the line. I have never read a book darker than this in my life. This is the darkest I've ever read, and it's called My Name is Tryst. You might have seen these covers. These are officially banned. I'm not shocked that they got banned, but I do not think that these books should be banned. If these books were not labeled as biographical fiction, which is what they are, these would be extreme horror erotica. And basically, like, if you don't know what biographical fiction is, the themes of nurture versus nature in this book are insane. Like, I honestly think these books could be studied in school, probably for college and adult. Like, nobody under the age of 18 should ever go anywhere near these books. I am a very experienced reader of dark content, and I had to put the book down multiple times. The amount of on-page CSA is horrific. The main character is the villain. He's written as the villain, and he basically was groomed for violence by a P3DO, and he's a twin, okay, who was also raised in a similar environment. So you're reading it and you want him to just, when he gets old enough to like start making the right choices, but he never does, and he basically turns into his father, who is this evil man. And it's freaking horrific. But again, the fact that this is biographical fiction, this is going to be a 3-book series. The first one is the author's fictionalized version of her story, and then this is her twin brother. Again, it's fictionalized, but biographical fiction, close to what actually fucking happened. And that's why I don't think this should be banned. Like, this is talking about very, very real shit that happens every single freaking day to men, women, and children. It's very dark, it's very serious, and if you can't even read about it, then why the fuck are we allowing this still to like happen? Anyway, I'm not gonna get too big on my soapbox, but yeah, I'm pretty pissed that these books are banned, if you can't tell. These are currently absolutely not available. The only reason I have a copy is the author sent me one, and my friend had purchased this one before it was banned and mailed it to me so I could read it before I got my hands on this guy. So the books are going through a re-edit basically right now, and she'll be making them available on her site. So if you are interested in seeing what I'm talking about here, the author is Julianne Addicott. Look up her site and just keep an eye out, because once they're done the re-edit, she'll be just selling direct, because obviously they can't be on Amazon anymore. But yeah, this is about as dark as it freaking gets. Not a romance, no HEA, thank God, because frankly, Tryst did not deserve an HEA. And yeah, that's about the end of the line. But yeah, that should keep you busy for a while. If you haven't read any of those, do it in whatever order you want. Start from darkest to dark and go lighter if you think you're gonna need to start slowly feeling better after you totally traumatize yourself, or do it the other way around. I don't know, whatever you want. Let me know if you've read any dark romances that I should check out and make another video on, because you know me, I like it dark and I like it twisted and I like it weird.